Welcome to another episode of the Bobcast. We will begin this week with men's soccer winners in the CAC tournament first round over York College of PA, 3-1 on Saturday night. A very exciting game. The Bobcats going ahead 1-0 on a Brett Basham goal. York coming back to tie it up, and then the Bobcats scoring twice in the final 10 minutes with Trevor Namey and Mo Odala finding the back of the net. Coach, we'll begin there. What are your thoughts on Saturday's win in the CAC tournament over York?
It was exciting, and obviously very, very happy for the guys to kind of get that feeling of a playoff win in that environment with the game meaning something. And it was just it was a great soccer experience for them all.
We talked earlier this season about how just getting the team to understand that they're not, as you say, we're not good enough to show up, come off a bus, not play our best, not be focused, and still win. Did you see that, or did you notice that everyone was really focused and excited to be playing in a tournament game? And was there anything that you saw that showed an uptick in focus and intensity?
Yeah, I think right from the start, the pregame locker room just seemed a little different, and then their pregame warm-up was one of their better ones where, when I watched the shooting, everything was hitting the back of the net. When I watched the possession, they were moving off the ball. They had a good speed of play. You could tell they were into it, and there definitely seemed to be a different level of focus and just kind of, energy to get ready for that match.
We had played York just 1 week before at YCP. That was a 1-0 win. Seeing a team so recently, what was your preparation like for the game, and what were you really looking to do against the Spartans?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's nice when it's kind of fresh in your head. It's always tough to beat a team twice after you just, beat them, so they're probably a little bit more maybe amped up with that revenge factor. But we watched a little bit of the film, and we went with what we saw, and we tried to stop what we thought they did well. But I think they tweaked what they were doing, and they were very dangerous, I thought, on getting the ball wide into deep spaces and putting balls in our box and making us have to defend crosses, balls on the ground and balls in the air. And I thought we did a good job dealing with it, but I did think, they definitely, caused some havoc with that. I thought we did a better job of moving off the ball. I thought we generated much more offense than we did the first game against them, where we kind of settled for that, set piece goal and then kind of defended. I thought this game at least we kind of came back at them. And definitely created some chances and forced them to make some saves and obviously, scored 3 goals.
This is a note that I use pretty frequently with the men's team. Only Basham and Getz are the holdovers from that 2016 semifinal game. And Saturday night, every goal had a newcomer involved, where it was Cameron Coates serving a ball in, and it was Kapende heading once before Basham eventually put it in. Namey's go-ahead goal. Namey a newcomer, Odala a newcomer, not giving up on a ball that was right there between him and the keeper. How much did newcomers really add to your team winning on Saturday and really to your team in this entire season?
Well, obviously they add a lot because, we've talked about how they're almost maybe half the team is newcomers.
Sure.
So they are a very vital piece to this year's team. But throughout the season, different guys have played different roles. And I thought the subs, when they came in to the match, was one of those games where the subs picked us up and played exceptionally well and changed the energy level. And, guys like Mo, he did what he does the best for him is he pressures defenders and he pressures keepers, and he got his foot to another loose ball and scored another tap in, which is, a lot of his goals have been from that, just putting people under pressure and making them try to have to make a play, and he's come out on top. And, Trevor's one of our more technical guys, and you need someone like that with composure in the box. So even with 2 defenders around him, he calmly just kind of got the ball, was able to turn it and just pass it into the corner with another defender racing in there to block the shot. And, it was really nice to see the game off and not hold on for 2-1 and feel panicky, but to get that third and, really just kind of be able to celebrate a little bit.
On the flip side of the newcomers, Basham and Getz are the guys who have been around before, been in a semifinal before. Is there a way that they showed leadership and as being a part of a playoff team and a playoff win before?
I mean, you hear them on the field when they're just talking and yelling at guys for things that need to be better, whether it's tracking runners or keeping possession, and that happens, and you can hear from the sideline. So I know the guys on the field hear it, and I think their confidence is just something that other guys feel they're confident in our back line because our back line is confident. So they know the guys behind them are going to get the job done, and yeah, they just the experience. It's not a ton of experience with overall playoff games and one and done scenarios, but just that fact that they've been there and they've seen other teams that have been there, I think does help the young guys kind of get a feel for, hey, this might be my season on the line for some of them, especially like Basham, who's he's seeing this out, and we don't want this to end for him and for the other seniors on the team.
Joel Assault, the goalkeeper, and as you mentioned, York tweaked some things and created some opportunities. Joel had to make 7 saves in the tournament win. Were you expecting that sort of performance from him in his first postseason experience at this level?
I guess unfortunately, yes, because he's shown that capability that, yeah, I expect him to be one of the best keepers in the conference every game. When he's on, he is magnificent. And that's huge because that means you can get away with a mistake here and there and it doesn't cost you the game. And the guys can keep fighting and find that way to get a goal. And I think that's what's kind of changed towards the end of the season is we've gotten goals after we've been down a little bit or the game went late and it was tied. There's no longer that fear of kind of losing and giving up a goal. And early on I talked about we always found ways to lose rather than ways to win. And now we're finding ways to win with his saves and guys finding the back of the net at crucial moments, whether it's coming back to tie a game or win a game or ice a game. There's just that belief that, hey, yeah, we can do this.
The turning point, I would say, is the win over CNU. And I said to you right when I asked you the question post-game, that feels like a game that we have lost, earlier this year and last year and quite a few wins this season in that fashion. So that's exciting. On Saturday, I was struck by some of the talent and chemistry that really came together. Injuries early in the season limited some guys, but to see just the interactions between Puna, Camilo, Capende working together. Capende and Randy Putnam had some nice sequences where they had some opportunities. And as you mentioned off the bench, some energy. Macomber, Odala giving a spark to this team. How nice is it to be this late in the season and to have guys relatively healthy and to have kind of the chemistry fleshed out where it may not have been the case early on?
Well, I mean, if there's ever a time to peak, it's right now.
Sure.
So, Caps and Camilo obviously had the early season injuries, which kind of limited them. And with both of them, I mean, I know the coaching staff, and I said it to him as well, like, that's the player I've been waiting for all year type of thing, where we finally saw them play with confidence, play with energy, and bring something to the table that impacted the game. And so collectively, we need that. And yeah, like I said, the other guys come in and once they understand what their role is, I mean, I thought Will was fantastic coming off the bench as the energy guy and the defensive player in the middle of the field.
He was harassing them nonstop.
And that's his job. He's not gonna dazzle you with footwork and do 3-step overs and bang a shot up or 90 most likely, but he's gonna track down loose balls. He's gonna compete. He's gonna do what he can do to be a player in the midfield that makes life difficult for the other team. And we got a bunch of guys like that. So I thought the guys stepped up, and I thought guys coming off the bench really did kind of, just take pride in their role of what would help the team.
Well, for men's soccer, the opportunity to extend the season. The conference semifinal is at nationally ranked Mary Washington, a 1:30 start. You guys are heading there on Tuesday. What have you learned from your experience playing Mary Washington in the regular season? And when the game kicks off, it'll be 3 weeks since the Bobcats' last loss, which was against Mary Washington. So what did you learn about that team, and how has Frostburg grown from that point?
Well, we were definitely in that game. I think it was a free kick and a penalty kick where there were 2 goals. I think the shots, maybe they outshot us by 1. But they are a team that makes you defend. They are direct with a purpose. They get the ball to their front line. They make you have to defend knockdowns and flick-ons, and they pump the ball in the box and they attack it with their athletic big guys. So it'll be another one for Joel to be, on point, because the services they play and just their style of play is they're probably going to get shots off. We just need to do a better job of limiting good service for them and tracking their runners and just not letting them get on the end of loose balls.
Finally, with this team and a lot of new faces this year, I don't have quite the pulse on the temperament of the group, but heading into a semifinal on the road at a nationally ranked opponent, is that something that really excites your guys, and are they looking forward to that opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them haven't been there before, and the guys from last year, to them, this is the game in a way that we lost last year. Though it was the first round, it was on the road at Mary Wash before they ended up winning the conference. So hopefully, there's a little bit of we've been there, we've seen this. Okay, we know what to expect, and they can bring that to the younger guys. Say this, you can't start slow on the road. It's got to be 100% from the start, because if they get a goal and get ahead. It's not that we can't come back. It's just going to be tough to come back. But if we match the intensity, match the knockdowns, the loose balls, and put them on their back heel first, now all of a sudden they're thinking, well, crap, maybe this isn't going to be as easy as we thought it was.
Sure. Well, we're looking forward to it. Tune in Wednesday at 1:30 at Mary Washington men's soccer in the CAC semifinal. Coach Keith Byrnes, thank you for joining me this week on the Bobcast.
All right, thank you.
Back on the Bobcast, we have Frostburg State men's and women's swimming coach Bryan Christiansen, and the Bobcats hit the road for the first time this season. This past Friday evening, they traveled to CAC opponent Mary Washington. The women picking up a victory over Hollins in that meet. Winners in the day, Maddie Weinberger, 200-yard breaststroke. Daisy DeMonte won the 100 back, breaking a school record. Luke Holloway, the 100-yard freestyle. Those are the winners. Coach, what do you make of your team's efforts on Friday evening at Mary Wash?
I liked our efforts a lot in the second half of the meet. I think we had a tough time adjusting in the first half. Through a variety of things, I think we had a lot of challenges. It kind of took us a little bit to get our stride, but I was pretty excited what we were able to do. And actually, some of our 200s, we were pacing better than I thought we would, better than we have. And it seemed like we just took a little bit to get into it, but I was happy with some of our swims towards the end of the meet.
How did your team really handle the routine was broken up a little bit this week. The first two meets of the season were at home, Saturday meets. This is a Friday evening meet. It's on the road. Mary Washington's pool is in yards rather than meters that we're used to here. How did your team kind of handle that shift in routine? And they're going to have to handle it throughout the year. So this is your first chance seeing that. What did you think?
Yeah, we got to be better. I think we let the distractions pile up. Again, the first half, I think some things were we lost track of some little things. We had some, strong races, like strong effort, but just like sloppy turns, and we had a lot of DQs in the first half of the meet. One thing you won't see, we actually we crushed their medley. Our women's medley relay was spectacular. But we actually got disqualified for just like a bad finish, a bad jump. People kind of not reading each other, not really seeing each other, and I think we were just kind of flustered. And once we settled down, we did a lot better.
Well, good. And being at Mary Washington, those are the reigning champions forever on the women's side, almost as long as forever on the men's side. You get your chance to see some of the best in the conference. Was that a good opportunity for some of your swimmers to really push themselves and race against some of the best competition they'll see in conference all year?
It is good, and I tried to put all of our all our kids that are vying for a title in their best events, kind of going up against the best of the conference and seeing how we measure up. And we came out on top for some of those races, which was exciting. Some of them, we were either we actually had two great touchouts. Haley Benedictus and Luke Holloway, as you mentioned, the 100 free, he won that by I think like 2/100ths by the same place person.
Mm-hmm.
Mary Washington had another kid in that who had beat him, but they had that guy exhibition. So, in terms of what they might do at the conference meet, who knows? They've got a lot of talent. We'll kind of see how they move people around. I know Justin likes to swim a lot of kids in a lot of different events, so it's kind of can be hard to tell where his game plan is. But
still early for both teams.
Super
in the
early,
season.
And I think we matched up well. I know Weinberger, she had actually lost the 100 breaststroke. Maddie does not take losing well. She gets very angry.
I know you're happy with that.
I am happy. She's a competitor and she's a racer. To her credit, she really got it together. And knocked the 200 breaststroke out of the park. And I think one of the best races she's had in that this year. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. Someone who's going to bounce back. Because not all races are going to be good.
Sure.
And
this team's counting on her.
Yeah, and you're going to be frustrated, and bouncing back is a really, that short memory is a really important skill to have in all of sports.
Sure. And looking at this meet being a Friday night, what was the preparation like for this meet in terms of the workload and volume leading up to the meet?
We went down a little bit, I think just naturally because it was Friday. We only had 4 days of practice, so the volume of the week was naturally a little lower. We did a big fly set on Thursday, which the kids actually did really well. I was kind of nervous about that set, and the kids responded to it pretty well. So we did more fast, hard stuff, like more high quality stuff rather than like more yardage stuff. And I think that we did okay with it. As I'm still trying to understand how this team is adjusting to different training stimuli. I think we did better with that than we did with the big yards we did other meets. So as naturally I would kind of expect we would.
And
so
through the season, it's a process to learn your team.
Yeah, and I gotta say I think some of our errors are more mental in nature than physical this meet. So I think we're on the right track.
Sure. Still early in the season. I want to hit some individuals. Women's swimmers of the meet were Emily Turner, Elizabeth Myers, and Haley Benedictus. Men's swimmers of the meet, Brady Peterson, Hunter McFalls, Anthony Giuseppetti. A chance here to kind of recognize some different performers from Mary Washington and Hollis.
Yeah, Emily had, I'd say, the best 200 backstroke I've seen her so far this year. It really came together for her. She just she's kind of looked tired in a lot of her swims this year, but she really got that one together. She paced it well. She paced it smart. Haley had that great touch out. She also tried the 200 breaststroke for the first time this year. Had a great effort in that. And then Elizabeth I loaded her up. She did I think 3 out of the last 5 events. Also a ton of fly. She did the 200 fly and the 100 fly. She just had a great effort all around. Giuseppetti, he was hurting. He did the 50 freestyle for us. Really cramped up bad, and then in his legs, and then hit the 200 backstroke, which I don't know, other swimmers might know. I think it's one of the most leg-heavy events you can do. And he is a great kicker and a great underwater person. He was getting about 2 yards off the wall because his legs were hurting so bad. But he kept trying and fighting, and he got a second. I think he would have won it with fresh legs. So I was excited to see. Hunter, another backstroker, did awesome. He really had a breakthrough meet. Really competing in a way that he hasn't before. And then who was the last one?
Peterson.
Peter. How do I forget Brady? Brady did great. So the captains, like his peers, chose him as some of the meet. He had some tough events. Fly, 500 freestyle for the first time this year. And he kept his stroke together really well. He was pacing it well. And then a really great 200 fly for him. One of the fastest that he's been in season. So that was really exciting to watch, all those guys swim hard.
Saturday, the team headed to the Chatham Invitational, and it was canceled out of respect for the victims of a shooting at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. The swim teams were in close proximity to where it occurred. Is everyone all right from just being so close to an event like that?
Yeah, we're kind of shooken up, some of them, but everyone was safe, accounted for. Made sure to keep track of everybody, made sure everyone called their parents and was letting them know. I wanted their parents to hear their voice, not a text. Making sure that we are kind of caring about our loved ones and telling our loved ones that we love them. That was important to me, and it was scary. I don't think I've never been. Obviously you hear this on the news, and this was national news. I've never really been as close as we were. I think the team handled it pretty well. It was a little bit more somber when they kind of heard the reality of it. Like we saw a bunch of cops, didn't necessarily know what was going on. Then kind of, the the news and the scope of it started unfolding, I was kind of ticked off for maybe about 2 seconds that the meet was going to be canceled. Then I kind of realized I wasn't having the worst morning in Pittsburgh that morning. And I think that was the right choice. And our hearts go out to those victims.
Absolutely. Glad to hear Frostburg swimming, able to be okay, and returned safely as well on Saturday. This weekend, the CAC meet is at Salisbury here for the Bobcats. A long trip, a conference meet, a win for the women last season. What's the preparation plan for this week?
The kids are fired up. I remember that was like something they said when I interviewed at Frostburg. Like when I met with the students, they were like, "Our biggest rivalry is Salisbury, and we want to go after them." So I love that. I love those rivalries. In the CAC swimming polls came out. They were ranked. Frostburg's underrated in that, I think. But we're kind of using that as fuel right now to get psyched up and try to show this conference who we really are and what we can do. I think Salisbury is a good match of that. I think our focus is pretty strong on them. We are still going to go pretty hard. I mean, we need to – this week needs to be one of our maxed out weeks of the fall. Might line up a little bit on Friday. We'll try to get some sleep on Friday again like we did last weekend. And then we're just going to try to hit them hard and make sure that we are mentally prepared. That bus ride's tough, takes a toll. But we just got to be on top of it. And so, physically we'll be okay. I think it's the mental errors where we gotta sharpen that up.
I'm hoping to see some Josh Brown, Luke Holloway head-to-head action this weekend as well. So, Coach Bryan Christiansen, the first conference meet of the season out of the way, the second one next weekend. Thank you for joining me this week on the Bobcast.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here as always.
Up next in the Bobcast, I have Frostburg State head football coach DeLane Fitzgerald. The Bobcats, a win over Southern Virginia, 61-7 on homecoming. Second straight year, the Bobcats have dropped 60-plus on homecoming. Coach, what did you make of your team's performance on Saturday?
Really pleased with the way we played at the beginning of the game. Our guys were excited. They were more excited to play than the Southern Virginia players were, and we played extremely fast on Saturday, which was the goal for last week. Happy with the young men and the way they handled themselves. Homecoming week's not easy. Not easy around here. There's lots of distractions, and you got the alumni events, and you got the pep rally, and you've got this, and you've got that, and they did a nice job of blocking everything out and just playing football.
The big story into this week was the fact that there had been kind of a lackadaisical approach early in games. How did you see that improve on Saturday?
We got ourselves ready to play mentally and physically. And what happens when you change that and you start playing better to start a game, it's because you had a little better practice on Tuesday and you played better on Wednesday and you played better on Thursday and you're just ready to go at the start. When you give days off and when you take days off and take plays off, it takes you a while to get going on Saturday before you can get up to your full potential. We were ready to play on Saturday, meaning that we had a good week last week.
What does that mean? What changed in your routine to make it a better week of practice?
We went full pads and were extremely physical last week. So we did things that we hadn't done previous weeks, but we were full pads and got after it pretty good all week.
Well, it showed a 61-7 victory. We'll start with the quarterback, Connor Cox. 5 touchdown passes, added another one on the ground. He is your NJAC Offensive Player of the Week. I was impressed with the fact he was able to spread the ball around. Chandler Breeden, Terrell Brown, Noah Teeter, Malik Morris, all with receiving touchdowns. Can you speak to his performance this weekend?
Yeah, Connor is finally finding his groove in his senior year. He played well 2 weeks ago against Montclair. He played well on Saturday. He's getting more and more accurate as the season goes on, and he hit his mark on Saturday when he was throwing the football. He hit everything he was throwing at, and good for him. And our receivers went and made plays, so it's complimentary. He plays well, they play well, but it's good to see him coming into form at the end of the season.
On the rushing side of things offensively, over 200 yards on the ground, with the leading rusher, Jamal Morant, having 58 yards. A lot of ball carriers, a lot of guys blocking for those ball carriers. What did you see from a myriad of players on Saturday in the run game?
Jamal and Grayson are our running backs and going to continue to be as long as they stay healthy. But they're our two-headed system, and they played well on Saturday. But the game got out of hand so fast. You go into halftime and you're up close to 50, but you have to play your starters coming out in the second half for a series or two, or they get used to not playing after the first half, and then you play bad second halves. And so we went in and told our players, you got the first two series of the third quarter. So Jamal and Grayson got to play those first two series, and then we go into all the other running backs. The beauty of our football program right now is we're probably 6 or 7 deep at the running back position, and they're all good football players.
I want to shift over to the defense. 3 takeaways, 5 sacks, all in the first half. Some big splash plays. Duron Aku, a strip sack. Wayne Palmer's long interception for a touchdown. Draquan Reed, a forced fumble as well. He also recovered Aku's strip sack. How are you feeling about that group defensively and the way that they were able to impact the game in big plays?
Draquan plays better and better as we're going along in his senior year, and he's getting a little better each week, so good for us and good for him. Duron Aku is as good a freshman linebacker as there is in this conference. He may be as good a freshman linebacker as there is in the country. Does something special each week, whether it's an interception or a forced fumble or a fumble recovery, along with making a handful of tackles each week. But he's playing well. And then Wayne Palmer's played really well for us all fall, and we're happy with Wayne. To see Wayne get the interception and go down the sideline and score with it was a good thing, a really good thing, because he's worked hard to be a good football player.
The interception was really entertaining to see the rest of the defense rally quickly. I saw Zach Strand and Duron Aku get out and hit some guys. That was a lot of fun to see. Palmer, the first player with back-to-back interceptions in games since Aaron Gibson did so last year in the playoffs. Here's an interesting tendency from your team. The highest scoring quarter in every single game this season except Montclair has been the second quarter for your team, another 27 points on Saturday. Nearly half of the points this season for Frostburg have been scored in the second quarter. Can you explain that?
So you're not supposed to say that out loud because our opponents sit and listen to this podcast.
Do they?
Yeah, they get things out of it.
Okay.
They get little tidbits here and there. It goes back to what I've complained about for the last month, us not starting fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the first quarter should be our highest scoring quarter, and then when you haven't lost a game, your fourth quarter should be your lowest scoring quarter because you're up on a lot of people and you're not trying to score points in the fourth quarter. You're just trying to run the clock and get the game over with like we tried last Saturday. But to answer your question, it's taken our guys a little while to get going this year, and we're good in the second quarter. But now our offense is best in the second quarter, and our defense is best in the third quarter.
Why is that?
I don't know.
That's just the way it is?
Because we coach 18 to 22-year-old young men, and that's the way they are. Just happens that every year's different. Every year's different. Hey, next year we may score 400 points in the first quarter and not score again the next 3 quarters. Or it may be the fourth quarter. Who knows? Every single season statistically is different, and you know my thoughts on statistics. Statistics are for losers.
Sure.
The only stat that matters is that scoreboard at the end of the game.
Win a game a week, get better each day. I know that's going to come from you.
I have found that if you win one game a week, that the president and vice president and athletic director let you keep your job from week to week.
So far, so good this season as well. The calendar turns over to November, and here's another trend. Frostburg is 7-0 in the month of November in the last 2 seasons. What has made this program successful this time of year, and what are you looking for out of your young men?
Yeah, the tone and tempo that we play football with is why we're good late in seasons, but let's give the most credit where the most credit's due. Kyle Linhart and his strength and conditioning program have been really good over the last 2 or 3 years, and along with our players and our coaching staff, Kyle's gotten better downstairs in that weight room as we've gone along here, and he does a nice job of getting our players ready and keeping our players healthy, and our players are stronger than the players that we play. Therefore, they're more durable and more pliable, and we last longer.
And that has contributed to Frostburg 7-0 in the last 2 seasons in November, 3-0 in postseason play in that time. This week, Frostburg State is headed to Kane. However, this is, week 10 of the season. This time last year, we've talked about this Kane game a little bit before, was, as you've said, the most banged up your football team had been. So this is a late-stage game in the season. Where is your team in terms of its health and just availability across the board right now?
Yeah, we're healthy, and we've got a bump and bruise here and a bump and bruise there, but we're as healthy as any other football team is this week. Going to be a lot healthier this week than we were last week, and more so than that, we've got a group of guys that are excited to play football now.
Frostburg has played 4 road games and has not scored a touchdown in the first quarter on the road since week 1 at Stevenson. Do you think that trend can be bucked here on Saturday?
You like these stats now. Hey, who cares? How many games have we won on the road since Stevenson?
All of them.
I'm going to answer your question. We haven't scored a first quarter touchdown since Stevenson.
On the road.
On the road. We're going to have to run the hook and ladder and the flea flicker and the fumble rooski and the double pass. We're going to get in the
whatever it takes.
We're going to get in the double tight end T and run the double tight end reverse. I mean, if we haven't scored a touchdown, if we haven't scored first quarter offensive touchdown on the road since August, we're going to have to do some things to get that changed.
We'll see about that. Frostburg to Kane this weekend. I know you're a huge Dan Garrett fan. The Cougars are 1-6 on the season, but Coach Garrett, as you have said, one of the best coaches in the NJAC. What do you expect from Kane?
He may be the best head football coach in the NJAC conference. Dan took over that Kane program that was really, really bad before he got there, and I don't know the exact record, but they didn't win a lot of football games, and he's won 70 games there, over less than a decade. Done a real nice job with that football program. I know they haven't played well as of late, but they're starting 3 or 4 freshmen on offense, sophomore quarterback, and they start another 3 or 4 freshmen on defense. They play extremely hard, and you look at the last 2 weeks and that they've lost, really close ball games the last 2 weeks, and that they're playing extremely hard for the coaching staff, and they're good on defense and good on special teams right now. And you mentioned we haven't played the greatest on the road this year outside of the Wesley game, so we need to focus in and handle our business this week. Dan Garrett and his staff will have them ready to play football on Saturday, and I expect a battle.
Some big games this weekend as we turn into the Pick'em segment. A tough week for you last week. You had Wesley and Wittenberg at home. They both went down. Johns Hopkins came through for you against Muhlenberg. Some other big ones across the nation and in the NJAC. The one in the NJAC is Wesley at Salisbury. What's your read on this one?
Salisbury's going to beat Wesley on Saturday and set up a big one here 2 weeks from now.
Cortland at Brockport.
Brockport's going to win.
And North Central at Illinois Wesleyan, a big game out in the Midwest. The loser might be on the outside looking in when it comes Pool C time. It's
Illinois Wesleyan and North Central.
Mm-hmm.
Would you think less of me if I told you I didn't even know where those 2 schools were? I'm assuming Illinois Wesleyan somewhere in Illinois.
Yeah.
But that's a pretty big state now.
Yeah. North Central is also in Illinois because in parentheses it has ill next to it every time it shows up.
Okay,
there you go.
Oh, wow. North Central, sure.
He's taking North Central on the road.
They played Wesley 3 years ago, and I watched that game on the internet, so I at least have seen them play once in my life, so I'll take that one.
We'll take that one. So Frostburg at Kane this weekend. We're looking forward to it. DeLane Fitzgerald, thank you for joining me this week on the Bobcast.
Go Bobcats.
Next on the Bobcast, we have our field hockey segment with head coach Kaitlin Thompson. Field hockey finishing out its season in the CAC tournament on Sunday at number 15 CNU. Also games at Shenandoah and York this past week. Really, this will be a bigger picture conversation. We'll just start here with the last week. How would you say your team competed in the last week of the season and in the CAC tournament?
I was proud of the way that we came out in the 2 CAC games that we had. Those are both very tough attacks, probably some of the 2 of the best attacks in the NCAA. And we were able to do some of the things that I ask them to do on a regular basis. We were able to move the ball around that pressure a lot. We were stepping to balls. We were playing with energy and purpose. So, I think the score doesn't always reflect some of the things that we were able to accomplish in that game, and I was proud of our team for being able to accomplish those things against, again, 2 great teams.
Again, the CAC has Salisbury and CNU, which are nationally ranked, York College, who has been receiving votes for several weeks after beating CNU earlier this season. So the Bobcats, again, in one of the toughest conferences in the nation. To get to the bigger picture here, can you speak to the progress that the field hockey program has made this season, even if it doesn't show up in that final record? Because I look deeper into the schedule and I see 12 road games. I see several of the wins last year swapped out for harder games in the schedule, road games in the schedule. What can you speak to in terms of the progress that the program has made this year in a lot of the little things?
Yeah, we've really set out to change a team culture that I came into, and I think that the girls have done a great job of kind of building this culture that we want to be a part of, and just having each other's backs, being great teammates, keep staying positive, not only with your teammates, but with yourself, not getting worked up about things that you can't control. All of those things, I think those are the important things that we had to change in order to be able to be a championship team mentally, and we did start doing that. So, it's coming together. The girls see it as well. I don't think that they are necessarily disappointed in themselves. For this season, I hope they are not, because I truly do believe we have come leaps and bounds from where we were last year as a program, and I'm very proud of the girls for what they've been able to accomplish, not just on the field, but off the field as well.
In the bigger picture, in this end-of-season review, you're graduating 5 seniors: Ashley Myers, Holly Van Wee, Karen Morrell, Molly Pickard, Sam Schaefer. What did they bring to the team this season in terms of the leadership and in terms of your goal of changing the culture here with Frostburg Field Hockey?
Yeah, I think they did a really good job of, making themselves available to all of the girls, younger and older, and really just setting a tone for working hard on and off the field. And it's a very special group that we're graduating. I wish I had a chance to kind of work with them a little bit longer. Unfortunately, that's not the way it went. But I'm proud that I got to be their coach, and they're a very special group of girls that we are graduating.
And with the Frostburg State Field Hockey team this year, 11 players on the roster were either in their first year with the program or their second year with the program. What is their responsibility moving forward into their next few years with the program in terms of extending the culture and becoming some of those veteran players on your roster?
Yeah, just holding themselves accountable in and out of season to get better every day. From the beginning of this season to the end of this season, we saw a lot of growth, especially in those 11 players. So just holding themselves accountable to continuing that growth even when the coaches aren't around, continuing that growth in the weight room, continuing it, getting into one of our many indoor facilities that we have, and working on their skills, just being able to make themselves better when the coaches aren't around, and holding themselves accountable and to a high standard.
What has you excited about this team moving forward into next season?
I do think we do have a great group of girls that will hold themselves accountable. I think our group of girls really love playing the sport that they play, and I think that they do truly want to get better, and I think they see themselves as a great program. And they know there's just a few steps that they need to do in order for us to turn a few of those losses into wins. And it's not going to be, yes, it's going to be challenging, but we're not that far away from where we need to be, again, to change some of those losses into wins.
Yeah, 4 1-goal games, 2 close 3-1 CAC losses on the season. Do you have a favorite moment from this season with this group and this team?
I think, honestly, just this group of girls, I mean, you mentioned it, we had a lot of road trips. Just being with the group of girls on these road trips and being with them not only on the field but off the field, it's just, they're all friends with each other. Knock on wood, I did not have to and don't foresee me having to deal with any off the field issues between the girls. They all love each other. They all love being here and playing field hockey. And again, that was part of the culture change that we were bringing is, you got to want to be here, and you got to want to you got to love the sport and love the game and love who you're working with in order to be motivated to come in every day and work hard. And so, that's something that I do think that we were able to accomplish this year. And I think for that reason, they're going to want to work hard for each other in the off season. And yeah, like I said, just the little moments off the field um, has really been special this year.
Finally, what needs to be done this offseason by the returners? You talked about accountability. What specifically are you looking for them? And then what are you looking for in terms of new players to add to the roster?
Just looking to add a little bit more speed to us, maybe, and obviously add a little more depth. And then just making sure that we are just picking up some new skills, especially inside of our attacking circle, so that way we can be a little bit more of a threat on that end next season. But yeah, those are probably the main goals that we have for this off season.
And finally, that was it. Returners, new players. We're looking forward to it. The 2019 season. Kaitlin Thompson, thank you for joining us all year this year on the Bobcast.
Thank you.
Next on the Bobcast, we have volleyball coach Becky Fletcher and the Bobcats win in the CAC against Penn State Harrisburg on Wednesday night. Went all 5 sets with Salisbury, came up just short on Friday night, and then split with Clarkson and Geneseo on Saturday. The win over Clarkson, a very good win for the Bobcats. Frostburg finishes the regular season with the number 6 seed in the CAC tournament. They will travel to number 3 York on Tuesday. But let's start this past Wednesday. Bobcats are up 24-21 in the first set against Penn State Harrisburg. PSH rallies back to win that first set, scoring the final 5 points. How does a team kind of bounce back from that? What was your message to your team, and then how did your team respond winning those last 3 sets?
Our message was we needed to finish. I think it was pretty obvious that we were, being up 24-21, you can't get comfortable and you can't get overconfident, and you have to stay aggressive. And we didn't do that. So luckily they kind of changed their tune in the second, third, and fourth set, and were able to come out and score some points and win some long rallies. Penn State was, I think the overall theme this week was just some really scrappy, great defensive teams in volleyball. And, it's very rare that we see teams that are so great defensively. Usually I say that's our strength in the match, and I feel like we were really, really evenly matched, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, what did your team do really well in the win against Penn State Harrisburg specifically? Going back to that back line, was that it, or do you want to point somewhere else?
The Penn State Harrisburg match, we were pretty evenly distributed as a team offensively, which was really nice to see. We were able to get a lot of hitters involved. Obviously, that starts with passing, and our setter being able to have a lot of different choices. The theme of our season has been defense and middles, and when those two play really well, it allows our outside hitters to have a little bit less pressure on them, our pin hitters, and they were able to take advantage of some things.
I want to move on to Friday night. Salisbury is here. Frostburg has not beaten Salisbury since 2010 in volleyball. Last year it went to 5 sets. What did you think of the energy and the competitiveness you saw from your squad? This one also going 5 sets.
There were some really great moments in that match of just really competitive, intense, fun volleyball. I think it was really great to play at home with a lot of fans. Being homecoming weekend, I think there was a lot of support and good energy in the gym. I think that Salisbury is a good team, and you have to play at the top of your game for the entire match. And unfortunately, that 5th set we were not at the top of our game.
Salisbury relies a lot on its outside hitters for a big chunk of its swings. How does your team match up with that kind of or style of play?
Actually, we did an amazing job stopping their outside hitters. They both hit under 100, and they've been hitting well over 200 in most matches this season and a lot of conference games. So we were able to really slow down their outside hitters. I think they took over 60 swings each and had less than 15 or 16 kills, which it really isn't that many in a 5-set match on that many swings. So they're great. Nicole Ventrelli she's an 3-year all conference player. She she took a lot of swings against us last year and was really successful, and she had a good match, but for us, it was actually their right side that did a little bit more damage to us than their outsides. But I think overall our game plan worked, making sure that we could slow down their outside hitters and be aware of their other hitters and make sure that we got our middles involved in the game, and we did. We just couldn't put enough balls away on the pins, which hurt us a little bit, but it's okay. We learned moving on and get to move on to that next CAC game.
Well, the Salisbury match, as you mentioned earlier, defense and middles, the defense slowing down those outside hitters, the middles, 17 kills from Biamba, 14 from Ashante. What was working in the middle for your squad against Salisbury?
Biamba was doing some things, just hitting around the block and making their defense move a lot. So she was moving the ball from different corners. She was successful on some different tip shots. Ashante at times was just over their block, which is really difficult to defend. So being up and above the block and hitting down on the ball is not something you want to be standing behind as a back row player. And she's also able to see when when their defense is a little bit maybe out of place, and so she has some really, really deadly short tip balls that she throws up there every once in a while that are difficult to defend. So she had a great match. Our DSs were phenomenal that match. Well over 100 digs. I think like 109 digs for us. So many people with double-digit digs. They just really went after it hard in the back row and kept us alive and gave us great opportunities.
Saturday matches, Clarkson and Geneseo. Clarkson, one of the biggest wins of the season for your team. What did you see out of your squad in that one? You invited some pretty good schools from New York to come down here this weekend, and
so
big win.
Everyone we played this weekend has been regionally ranked at some point this season. So Salisbury was regionally ranked, and Geneseo and Clarkson have both been regionally ranked all season. Geneseo's libero Clarkson's libero is phenomenal, and so our game plan was to just try to keep the ball away from her side of the court as much as we could, because anytime we put it over there, she figured a way to keep that ball alive. Anytime we scored on her, they were pretty excited. But in general, we just really tried to keep the ball away from that left side of the court so that we could be more successful. And when we did that, we were really successful. And so sticking to that game plan of hitting to the right side of the court and hitting to the off blockers, our girls were able to earn some really hard fought, long battled points. A lot of rallies were volleying over the net 4 and 5 and 6 times. It wouldn't be uncommon for there to be 10 or 15 digs in one rally. So that was really exciting. I think the fans kind of got into it because, fans always get really excited about the defense in the game. Simple pass, set, kill volleyball is what us coaches like, but the fans really get into the defense. So those long rallies where we were able to get a ball to a middle or a hitter to put the ball away, that was kind of the name of that game. Both teams played that style. So keep the ball alive until somebody finally puts the ball away, and it was fun.
Able to beat Clarkson with their All-American libero Kate Isaacson. That has me turning ahead towards York College on Tuesday in the CAC first round. York was a win for the Bobcats in the regular season. It was a 3-0 sweep for Frostburg, the big conference win of the year. The Spartans were without their top libero, Alexis Harbold, who's one of the top half liberos in the CAC. What does the matchup with York look like with Harbold in the mix? And how does that Tuesday night drive and play kind of affect your team?
I think that I'm excited to go to York. We haven't been there yet this year. We played them already, obviously. I think that we match up well against them. I think that they play a similar style and that they're really aggressive defensively. Their middles have been very successful this season. We were able to slow them down a lot in our match here. I'm looking forward, and I'm hoping that we're able to do that again. Their outside hitter had a great match against us, Brooke Krebs, so I'm hoping that we can make some adjustments to slow her down and just make sure we're able to get all of our hitters involved in the game and positive in the game. So for us, that means making sure our middles get involved in the game early, and then getting our outside hitters to take some great swings for us and be effective when they need to be.
Well, we are looking forward to it at York Tuesday at 7. Tune in online if you can't make the trip. We're looking forward to it. Volleyball, first round conference tournament matchup. Coach Becky Fletcher, thank you for joining me this week.
Thanks.
Welcome back to the Bobcast. We have cross-country head coach Dale Louie, and the Bobcats competed at the CAC Championships in Southern Virginia. This past Saturday, the men took 6th, headlined by Robbie Romano's All-CAC first-team performance, finishing in 5th place. He is the second All-CAC first-team runner on the men's side since the Bobcats joined the CAC, the other being Patrick Mead in 2013. On the women's side, the Bobcats were 7th, Sarah McCurry leading the way in 26th place, she finishing in just under 26 minutes. So, Coach, it was your first time down there at Southern Virginia. What was the course like? What were the conditions like? And how did that affect the runners?
Well, we were on a golf course, and the course essentially was a 2,000-meter loop, which the men did then 4 times and the women 3 times. Footing was relatively good considering the weather we've had all fall. There were some spots that people were falling, and because there were so many loops on so many runners and so many repetitive loops on the same area there, by the time the women were running that last loop and stuff, people were losing shoes and and stuff like that. But most of the course was pretty nice, and was a very well run meet. A lot of help out there, which always makes things run smoothly. So our people really appreciated the meet down there. Weather was nice. It was a little bit overcast. Some of the high winds they were calling for didn't show up, so that was a definite plus.
Well, how was the race that each of your teams run? We'll start on the men's side.
We probably would have liked to have been up one more slot in the standings there, but we've brought our point totals down. The conference has become the last several years, track and cross country. There are really not too many gimmies out there. It's solid top to bottom, and so we're pleased that we were able to be really highly competitive with all those schools, even the ones in front of us and stuff. And looked out there and on the men's side, we had people mixing it up with every single school there the whole way around for 8K. So I was very pleased with that. As always, some people ran a little bit better than some others. You'd kind of hope that you have that dream day where everybody runs the best they can. We did not have that, but again, we've had enough depth here this year that people have been able to step up, and fortunately, we've got guys who are willing to work with each other, but then at the crucial point, recognize that it's every man for himself, and you've got to do what you need to do for the team, and. I always say, don't hold hands after a certain point. The team needs you and stuff. So, like Timmy Woodlocken would be a good example of that. You really stepped it up there, and we needed that. Because
he was our 5th finisher.
Right. We needed to pack as many people in as we could. Matt Whitley had an exceptional race. It was really nice to see him at his last conference meet. Had that kind of a race. He's really come on in the last couple of weeks. And Braxton Clark, his finish was a really good finish considering the number of runners and the quality. And we've really been on him about how he races. He's a gutty runner. He always gives you everything he's got. We've been a little bit on him about being a little bit smarter about, his strategy out there. And he did a really, really nice job, and it showed with where he finished. He, from the second loop on, he was just like pass, and he just kept passing people until the end of the race and stuff. Robbie ran an extremely smart race. We were all a little bit worried about the start because it was, quite a bottleneck there, and we just were trying to say to everybody, just bide your time. It's 200 meters out, but you got another 7,700 meters to go, and there's plenty of places here to move up and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And our people listen to that, and they we've really preached take what the course gives you, and it's very pleasing to see that these guys are running that way.
It was funny to see the splits for Robbie, 2K, 4K, 6K. He went from 17th to 10th to 6th to 5th, so it seemed like he knew what was going on and knew what his plan was going in, which isn't a surprise with the season he's had.
Right. When you it's interesting you say those numbers, because in some ways it reflects just what you're saying, the smartness of what he's doing, the intelligence of what he's doing. It doesn't reflect just how gutty you got to be to hang into that slot, because, if you watch these guys in cross country, you get to, that in this case, that third lap in particular, and it's just, all right, who's going to be the toughest person out here? So that's, again, one of the things I was very pleased with because it was a course where, 4 times you were going up a hill, and it was a long climb from the back corner, and it starts to wear on your mind when you get tired. So you got to just keep at it.
We're really happy Robbie getting the first team nod, 5th place finish. Last year on the men's side, it was a little bit helter-skelter. It was a relatively disappointing performance. How did the team really work together and kind of redeem itself this year?
Well, just what you mentioned. They knew that, and that's really been on their mind more than probably I even thought it would be throughout the year. I can't tell you the number of times that, I heard, which I didn't like, maybe an excuse about that down there last year. But they were all very cognizant of the fact that we didn't perform the way we should have performed down there last year. So that was definitely a motivating, factor. We have a number of seniors on the team, and they were also quite aware that this was their last cross-country race together, and we've had a nice group of people who have stuck together for 4 years, and you don't see that at a lot of schools.
No.
One of the reasons that our men's numbers have grown, quite a bit in the last couple of years is that those fourth-year people, have stuck with it for 4 years, and they've been very welcoming to new people on the team and encouraging to them. And there's always competition amongst them and stuff, but there's the feeling that we're kind of in this together, and that's not always easy to create on a team, especially in what some people would call an individual sport like cross country.
Sure, and the men's team, a solid season so far, a good showing here at CACs. Let's shift over to the women's side, and the story all year for women's cross country has been a smaller roster, only 5 runners running at championships. Sarah McCurry finishing in under 26 minutes. How did she perform, and then the rest of the women's team as well?
Sarah had a great race. Again, for her to finish where she did is really, I think, a credit to just how far she's come as a runner. I've been saying that to you guys all year long. And it sounds redundant, but she ran another better race, this past Saturday, and against some real quality competition. You're considering that she finished there 26. You probably have about, I'd say, somewhere between 5 to 8 or 9 women that were in front of her who will be running at the national championships. And so for her to stick her nose in there and run with that, and again, she ran a Sarah kind of race, which is just, get out there, be strong, stay consistent. She runs to her strength, which is her strength. She is not going to beat many people on 100-meter dash, and she knows that. and she just really had a great day, and she easily could have folded in that last lap, because it really, after you made it up the hill, everybody knew, all right, this is the last lap, made it up the hill. We've got this long, extended, relatively flat, a little up and down, but relatively flat. And then you got this nasty downhill, and then you got flat into the finish and stuff. So you could see that people were starting to fly. Watching that unfold is like, all right, can she hang in there? Can she hold that spot? You could see a whole bunch of Salisbury's team who were most of them were behind her, and you could see that they were stepping on the accelerator and stuff like that. And I think 2 finished in front of her and 2 finished back behind her and stuff. And that's great to see because, again, she's not the fastest person in the world, but at that point they started stepping on the accelerator. It was probably still a good probably 650, 700 meters to go. So you better not step on it too much, or
you'll be dying.
right
100 meters out.
Right, and that again, shows the intelligence of Sarah's racing, is that she was cognizant of just where that finish line was, and I was very, very pleased with how she paced herself from that point on in, because if she had made a mistake, there easily could have been 10 to 20 people who could have finished in front of her, past her in that last 700 meters.
Smartness and toughness there working out for her.
Right.
So that was really good to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rest of the women's side.
Well, they hung in there really, really good. Maddie Watson, continues to surprise. The other women stuck with it. We've had some illness. We had somebody else missing because of a funeral, and so we were definitely on a weak side there in terms of numbers. They kept at it. An example of that would be Lauren Halverson on the last lap. She comes, running up, and she's got her shoe and her timing chip in her hand, and she, like a bunch of them, had lost it in one area of the course there, and I thought she was going to just pitch it, and I finally said, just stop and put it back on, because there was a gap there, and she did, and then she finished fairly nice. We needed all 5 women to do what they did, so I give them credit for doing that.
I know we're still a little ways from the Mid-East Regional, but I have to ask you about it. You can only bring 7 runners. The men's side is really deep this year. There have been some injury, but when is the deadline for your 7 runners to be turned in, and what's the process the next week or so for determining? Well, we know on the high end of who's going to definitely be there, but who will round out that 7? What's that process like this week?
Well, it's actually kind of shaking itself out, made it a little easier for us than we thought it might be.
Sure.
Because, as you mentioned, we haven't had Jake Rickards, who's in our top 4. We haven't had him for most of the year. Dom Mandiel is just, came back and ran a pretty nice race, and he's missed several weeks and stuff. So our top 7 at conference meet are the 7 who will, on the male side, who will be running there. So, and again, what order they finish in, who knows? But those will be our 7 who will be competing there. And then I think you had asked earlier, there's open entries there from the standpoint if you can enter up to 7 runners. Mm-hmm. You don't have to enter a full team, and we won't on the women's side. We will be running Sarah, and that will be the only woman that will run this year on the women's side. And that's permissible by rule. So we'll have on the men's side a full 5 scoring and 2 displacing. And we'll get a team score out of that, and then Sarah will be with a number of other women who will be running, not with a full team. That's not unusual to see at the regional.
Another chance for her to come out and compete and improve.
Right, and we've as we mentioned, I think earlier in the year, we've been on this course a couple of times, especially the seniors, and we're on it earlier this year. we had one person there that didn't run it, so that's a little bit of a concern. But he has run it before, so it's not like it's going to be a brand new course to him. So hopefully the weather will cooperate, and we've got people who really like to run that course, and that's going to be a positive for us, because I can tell you there's a bunch of runners out there who don't like to run that course.
Well, we'll take it.
Right.
It's a very familiar course, some experience on that course. We'll talk ahead of that as well, Coach. Some strong performances at CACs. Thank you for joining us this week.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have women's soccer head coach Brian Parker. Women's soccer securing a CAC tournament first-round game with a win over Penn State Harrisburg this past Wednesday. However, the Bobcats season came to an end in the first round, a heartbreaker in overtime, losing 3-2 to Salisbury. The Bobcats finished the year, and let's jump right into that Salisbury CAC tournament game. The Seagulls score in the 5th minute and the 12th minutes to jump ahead 2-0. What went wrong early on in the game, and how was your team able to kind of stay in it and work its way back in later on?
Well, honestly, I thought we were pretty prepared. I mean, I thought the stage was really set. I mean, it's frustrating, I guess, for us to not have a good start, given the circumstances. We had the must-win game on Wednesday to earn the home game. Salisbury did the opposite and, did not earn their home game. And we thought they would win and send York to play us, but they did not do that. So, homecoming day, good crowd, lots of parents, big home playoff game. I guess, I'm sure some of the players would say there was some level of nervousness. I'm sure. I mean, I'm always nervous in the postseason, but, learning how to manage that energy. We talk about those kinds of things, and kind of bringing that energy into the game is really important. But obviously, credit to Salisbury. They had a great start. They really kind of jumped on us a little bit and gave us, created a couple good chances. The first goal, deflection leads to kind of a perfect pass, and their girl, kind of toe pokes a near post ball in. It was a good goal. The second goal was obviously a giveaway. Unfortunately, we passed it to their best player, I think, in front of our 18, and she immediately put the striker in. But guess what? She hit an upper 90 ball and was a fantastic finish.
Yeah, it was.
So it was a little stunning, and I'm happy that we kept our composure. And I mean, everybody, very purposefully just staying positive and realizing what a long game it is. And we turned the tide in the second half. So, yeah, a poor start, but very happy with how we responded.
Out of the halftime locker room, Audra Curtin came in at the top of the formation. She puts the first goal on the board. What was the message at halftime, and then what were some of the strings that you pulled to really help that second half scoring effort with Curtin and Dunnigan finding the goals?
So, at the beginning of the season, almost every year, we make a sticker or I write somewhere, that the two things that need to be true about every player is that they love the game and that they are competitive soccer athletes, competitive college athletes. So I just went right to that and said, look, we're being challenged. And if you are a competitive college soccer athlete, you love this environment. You love this challenge. We've just got punched in the gut, basically, and how are you going to respond? Like, we need a response. I said, if this is not why you came to play college soccer, to play competitive games like this at home, with everything on the line, what are you doing here? I mean, let's just go out and love the battle, basically. I really just talked about loving the battle and relishing this opportunity. And look, we're down 2-0. What can we do wrong now? Let's just go out and have no regrets and fly around and make it happen. And frankly, a terrific goal. Helen, puts a perfect ball in. Audra, big, strong kid, a confident kid, boxes out the defender, a smaller defender, and heads the ball in cleanly. Obviously, the second goal was a little bit more random. Jess Dunnigan hits a good high cross in, and their keeper kind of misplays it. But, getting right back in the game was awesome. And it was the kind of spirit and, response that we've needed in other games this year when we haven't really produced it. So I was very, very happy with how we got back into the game. And we were not really better, frankly, with the ball than Salisbury. We were the harder working, sort of more competitive team at the right moment in that game. And I was very happy with that response, obviously.
I want to talk about the depth that you went to in your squad, especially up top, and some of the changes that you make. at the start of the season, I not necessarily would have expected us to end with the lineup or play a lot of the lineup we played in the second half. Can you speak to the next man up mentality? And I know the classic response is every team in the country has injuries, but maybe not every team in the country has players who can step in and help you get back into big games like we saw on Saturday.
Well, yeah, obviously the simple response is, welcome to competitive college sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has injuries. Everyone has some degree of unpredictability in terms of available players. That's the first point, of course, is everyone deals with it, and you don't want to make excuses. When we started that overtime, I think I've realized that we counted after the game, 11 of our rostered players were unavailable to play. Some were obviously expected injuries. We have some long-term things happening to certain players. Some were, happened that game. Players that played in that game could not finish the game. So one of the things I probably said before with you is you're only going to have one really good college soccer team when you have two. So So this is an example. We had an entire college soccer team unavailable to us in this playoff game in the overtime. So players like Audra Curtin had to step up and give us lots of minutes. And she's a first-year player. She's been in the rotation. Corey Strano, also first-year player, gave us some minutes. Erica Allen was kind of a walk-on, showed up here at Frostburg and made our team. Also got a good opportunity to play. Audra was kind of our hero of the game. I'm very happy for her, and I think she does have a very bright future here. But, yeah, there's, you never really know when your chance is going to come. If it's not the starting whistle and you're not in the first 11, you got to be ready. And I thought she played very well. I'm certainly happy for her.
I was impressed by the depth and the competitiveness from your squad in that first-round game. An unfortunate ending for the Bobcats. Kind of get big picture here. 6 seniors leaving the program: Rihanna Lapin, Melissa Krofchek, Haley Turney, Kelly Richards, Anais Ventura, and Danny Ferris. What have they contributed to the program this season and over their years here at Frostburg?
Great kids, great players. I think, the example that they provide is not just to the current players, but also to future players, because they could have all done plenty of things. Anais was a terrific player out of Good Counsel High School, played in a pretty decent club team. She certainly had lots of options. These are great students. Rihanna Lapin could have gone to almost any college in the country, academically. All these girls, are great students, are great examples, great role models, and so they've really led the way. We had one of our highest ever team GPAs. We didn't win as many games as maybe we could have or should have, whatever, this year, but they really kind of carried the load and stepped up when we needed it, and we're all contributed to the culture and work ethic, the sort of ethos of the team at different times for different reasons, and we wish them well. It's funny, I talk to kids sometimes. You sort of challenge the seniors when it's their turn, and you say, I'm going to be here next year, but you're not, so here's a chance to really leave a mark, and they did a great job. Ree's come back from the injury. They all have a story, and I'm actually very proud of them. They'll be great representatives of the school going forward.
Even if the results aren't necessarily what we wanted here out of the women's soccer side, I think it's fair to say that the culture has been continued from the last 24 seasons.
Yeah, look, we have 6-7 players in each class. Great balance in the team. Great young talent. Great rising, returning players for next year. Great committed recruiting class. Already commits for 2020. We're fine. We're going to be fine. I said to my wife how this was like my second year in 24 years of coaching high school and college without a winning record, and she was like, oh, and then she thought about it and she said, that's really good. And I said, I guess it is. It hurts really right now a lot. But we're going to be fine. We're going to bounce back. I mean, if you were to say, hey, guess what? You're going to a new conference next year. I would probably I'd probably tell you the timing's good.
Sure.
The timing's fine. I mean, as bummed out as we are to kind of lose our last go with some of these conference teams, we've done Frostburg very proud in the CAC. I think this is only the third year in 8 or 9 that we didn't advance. We were in the final 5 times, won a couple conference titles in the CAC. We made an impact in that conference, but we don't. We're certainly not afraid of change and are looking forward and excited.
What has you specifically excited about this women's soccer program as the Bobcats move to Division II next season? A lot of first-year contributors. You mentioned Curtin and Striano in the playoff game coming off the bench. Some center backs to be excited about moving forward. What has you pumped up for the future?
Well, to be honest with you, the Division II move and the way the rules are in the transition, it in a way, we're going to be a little bit of freer playing. You know, there's not so much, not going to be any pressure on us. The only thing we get to do next year, very honestly, is just go to a new conference and just tick people off. You know, just go in there and be super competitive and get results and surprise people. And that's going to be a lot of fun. You know, it's just like the new kid on the block mentality. I mean, there's some, look, here's what I'll tell you about the Mountain East that is clearly obvious. There's some really good teams in there, and there's some really new teams in there. You know, it's a diverse conference. You know, we're going to be fine in terms of how we match up and compete. But again, it's all new. It's all fresh. The sort of pressure's off because we are new. And so I just think it's an opportunity for our players to just have a tremendous amount of growth, you know, as we go forward. I think, you know, kids today especially, like if it's not new and fresh, like it's not cool, you know?
Uh-huh.
So I honestly like the change, and I think our kids will buy in and be awesome. It'll be fun.
Finally, the expectation for Frostburg women's soccer is training and playing, you know, through mid-November, Thanksgiving. Do you think this sort of ending is something that's going to motivate the returning group this year and beyond?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, you know, yes, of course. You know, we should be playing. We should be a little bit pissed about that. I mean, you know, one of the things we've always been very prideful of here is the fact that we play longer than a lot of teams here, a lot of teams in our conference, and a lot of teams in the country. And we did it. We did that. We got in the tournament. We would have, you know, in any format as a 4th seed, we're in our conference tournament. Mm-hmm. So we did get an extra game, but that's never enough. And if we're not playing in November, we're not happy here, and certainly in women's soccer. And so, yeah, that does need to be fuel going forward. It's unfortunate, you know, that the seniors don't get another chance, of course, but they've had plenty, and they've had great experiences here. But yeah, we're gonna, you know, it's an opportunity to step back, take some big picture, you know, looks at everything we do here and really evaluate everything from the, you know, the physical, the physiological science, the training regime, the X's and O's, and really look at the year-round program and how we're going to transition it to Division II. Obviously, being able to train at a higher volume and get more games in the academic year is going to be awesome, you know, starting next spring. So we're excited that there's going to be some changes, and we're going to maybe have a little bit more to kind of influence the players.
Year in and year out, women's soccer is one of the most consistent programs at FSU. We're looking forward to that 2019 season. Coach, thank you for joining me all year long on the Bobcast.
Thanks for your time. Have a good winter.